And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China!
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China! All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China!
Russian.
Russia!
Italian.
Italy!
German.
Germany!
Swedish.
Sweden!
Korean.
Korea!
Egyptian.
Egypt!
Nigerian.
Nigeria!
Black.
Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have.
This story begins in October 1949, 1 year after Israel's formation. This is when Netanyahu was born, the second child of a historian. His paternal grandfather was a rabbi and a Zionist writer. His name was Nathan Milikowski. Later in life, he Hebraized his surname from Milikowski to Netanyahu, a name which means God has given.
This is Yair Netanyahu's DNA test that has been leaked. You can see right there his Y DNA is RM198. Descendants of RM198 come from Poland, Russia, Germany, and other European countries. Does this look Semitic to you? Does this look Middle Eastern?
And we do have DNA tests, which, by the way, are banned in Israel. You're not allowed to get DNA tests in Israel.
Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. But according to Israeli law, the fact that I have Jewish blood gives me more right to somebody's home and land in the land of Palestine than somebody that has been there for hundreds of years. Doesn't make sense.
I just had a rabbi give me an analogy. He said, look, imagine you left your home and then someone came and occupied it and then you try to get it back and then they went to the judge. Have you heard some of these analogies? Maybe you can.
Yeah, that's assuming that, that's taking it to a place which I don't usually go. That's making the assumption that today's Jews are really the descendants of the ancient Hebrews that used to live in that part of the world some 3,000 years ago. That's making the assumption that today's Jews are really the descendants of the ancient Hebrews that used to live in that part of the world some 3,000 years ago.
That's making the assumption that today's Jews...
You can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. That's what the Zionists did, except instead of a baseball team, they went to try to convince the Jews that the Jewish people are a nation, like France and like Spain. We'll get a land, that's Israel, that's our stadium. will get baseball bats and balls, will create a language. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages.
There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. It's fine. I love all religions. But you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years.
Where does Ukraine come from? The Russian state became centralized, which was the year of establishment of the Russian state in 862, when, well, there is a city of Novgorod in the northwest of Russia, when they invited Prince Rurik from Scandinavia, from the Vikings, in 862. In 1862, 1,000 years since the establishment of the statehood was marked, and there is a memorial dedicated to that in Novgorod.
The largest ever U.S. delegation to Israel just took place. 250 state legislators from all 50 states arrived Monday for an event called 50 States, One Israel. They planted 50 trees at a site of the October 7th attacks and met with Israeli leaders. Netanyahu's office called it the biggest bipartisan visit of American lawmakers to Israel. Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar urged them to push anti-BDS laws in their states, which are meant to discourage boycotts of Israel. So far, 38 states have already adopted such measures. Sa'ar described BDS as part of a coordinated global effort against Israel, saying the best response has been anti-BDS legislation. But the trip's timing sparked controversy. The very next day, the UN ruled for the first time that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, while Israel relaunched its ground invasion of Gaza City. And despite its scale and timing, this massive visit has barely been covered by international media. Only local Israeli outlets reported on it, leaving many to question why such a major event went largely unnoticed.
And Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
A partnership between Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Friends of Zion Museum led to the unprecedented visit.
It's the first time in history the State of Israel has officially partnered with 1,000 strategic pastors to commission them as ambassadors to combat anti-Semitism and reach the youth of their generation.
Dr. Mike Evans says Israel's fight is not just on the battlefield.
Right now there's an ideological war that Israel's losing. So they need the evangelicals, they need the Zionists to fight an ideological war.
One of the goals of this gathering is to strengthen Christian support during a time of growing global anti-Semitism. They say the pulpit must speak louder than the propaganda.
And you know what else, Jim? I just want to say this to our Christian friends, you know, just to call it as it is and say it straight out, you know, you guys are worshiping one Jew. That's a mistake. You should be worshiping every single one of us, because we all die for your sins every single day. And that's exactly what's going on here. Yeah. We're all God's firstborn, and we're dying for your sins right now because the Jewish people in the land of Israel are the bulwark against the orcs. Okay? The orcs are coming not to a theater near you, but to your home.
Black people can't be anti-Semitic. We are Jew. You understand what I'm saying? We are Jew. So cool out. Until you do your facts, until you really do the facts with the fake indoctrination that y'all pull into the schools and all that, you know what I'm saying? We're not following y'all rules.
We're finishing now part 2, chapter 2. And what we've said so far is that people have free will and their actions are, some are good and some are evil. And by the way, the Rambam writes explicitly that everyone has some good actions and some bad actions. Everyone. And he takes it for granted that there'll be a variety. We talked about the fact that this world and the next world are asymmetrical. The next world is where the majority of a person's actions, which determine his identity, are compensated. For the righteous, they exist in the world to come and they're rewarded. And for those whose major complexion is black, are excluded from the world to come.
Hitler was, and the Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them. With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah, with
the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger, a known eugenics, with the KKK to control the Jew population. When I say Jew, I mean the 12 lost tribes of Judah, the blood of Christ, who the people known as the race black really are. Well, did you accept that black people, you accepted that black people are Jew? Or
I'll come to that in a moment.
Guys, this isn't even the tip of the iceberg in terms of what that man has put me through because I survived. Like literally, it's like that's why I say it's a slave owner mentality. It's very obvious that that's what it is. Why are you hosting 300 people to fire someone? What is that? Here's what she did wrong. Here's what she did wrong. And I'm just like the one who doesn't even flinch because literally F you. Yeah, literally F you. I don't care. Stop. Kanye was right. He was totally right. That's why he burned down his life and said, I'd rather rebuild it than let you own 1 ounce of it. And when you do rebuild it and they don't own it, well, then you get into a scary territory, right? You get into a scary territory because what they are willing to do to take when they can't earn it, it's very scary. History tells us and shows us.
And the first thing I found out is this. I found out that they do not know their history. That's one of the things that I know. And so you have to tell them their history. So today I'm going to attempt to do that.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. Hope and pray all is well with you guys. Apologies, my mic was muted, so I caught it pretty quick. But nevertheless, hope and pray all is well with you guys. Man, we got a lot to cover, And I know some of you guys are familiar with some of the viral comments that Candace Owens has made. I mean, went viral, especially off her last live that she did. And let me see if I have it here. This is one of the comments. I'm not sure if I have the video labeled correctly, but this is one of the comments that really set things off, that really went viral. She just really, she just slammed Ben Shapiro. So let me see here. I believe it's this one right here. Let me play it for you guys.
Stop telling people you're chosen. You are not chosen to do ish except within the synagogue of Satan.
All right, that's one of them, but let me see if this is the one right here. Let me see if it's this one right here. And if not, then we'll just we'll try to get to it. But I know I have it here. Let's try this one right here. I think it was this one right here. Nope, that's not it. Let me see if it's this one. Let's see. Let's try this one right here.
I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, Help you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew. And I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them.
Let's see here. I'm trying to get a book here. Here it is on my desk. Right, because I saw some comments inside the comment section on what book did she hold up in her hand. Didn't get a chance to research it, but I will say this to you guys. I'm going to share some sources with you. We're going to unpack quite a few things this afternoon. And we're going to start with one of the things I want to recommend to you guys, this book right here. Let me pull it closer to the screen. Matter of fact, let me check my... Let me make sure this is correct for us in terms of my camera settings. But this book is called Jesus Christ in the Talmud, Midrash, Zohar, and the Liturgy of the Synagogue. A lot of information in here, but we're going to cover we're going to cover a few things. I'm going to share some sources with you guys so that way you guys can understand what's in that Talmud. This is stuff we've been teaching for years on top of years. And I'm thankful that she is starting to bring some things to the forefront. We got to give her credit. We have to give her credit. The Roland Martins are not doing what she's doing. Some of the other channels that are out there, they are scared to say the things that she has said, especially when it comes to confronting the 1948ers. And I'm going to label it that way. You guys know when I say the 1948ers, right? I'm just going to leave it at that, because of all what social media is doing, YouTube is doing, the 1948ers are doing to try to restrict our freedom of speech. So I use the term 1948er, right? But think about it. She's literally had the internet, especially the podcasting world, upside down. She has the podcasting arena upside down. All right. It's like pretty much every time she do a live, pretty much it's like equivalent to being viral. So let me check something real quick before we get started. I want to make sure that my camera is set correctly. All right. It is correct. All right. So, but like I said, this is one of the books right here that we'll make reference to. Is called, again, Jesus Christ in the Talmud, Midrash, Zohar, and the Liturgy of the Synagogue. And this will give you some, for those that are not familiar with it, it'll give you some shocking information on exactly what and how the 1948ers feel about us. All right. So I'm just going to say those in the comment section, be respectful, because they are watching our channel. Now, I'm not getting into all that other stuff about who she married and all that other stuff, because sometimes we can focus on one thing and miss the whole bigger picture of the things that we're dealing with. You know what I mean? I'm not getting into all that other stuff. I'm not getting into the weeds of that, but she is bringing a discussion to a higher level, much higher level than what Kanye, what what's his name, Kyrie Irving, Whoopi Goldberg. She is bringing a discussion that we've been discussing. We've been calling out. Most of the videos here is all about that, right? So I'm going to say again, sometimes we can major in the minors. We could get into the weeds of other stuff. You know, we could be selective with what we want to hear and what we don't want to hear. So I'm saying this right now. Show me one podcaster, show me someone with the same platform on the same level that she has that is actually doing and calling out the 1948ers. In the words of Rakim, if you got more, I'll wait, but don't make me wait too long before I move on. I'm gonna leave it at that, because sometimes we could just, again, get so caught up into the majoring in certain things we shouldn't even be majoring in. All right. So I will say this again. She is doing something that's that none of us ever thought to see. Did I roll with the things she said about Sonia Massey? No. Did I roll with the stuff that she say? Do I agree with the stuff she said about George Floyd? What's her name? Breonna Taylor. I don't agree with none of that. I really don't agree with none of that. But at the same time, it doesn't take away from the truth she shared. Truth is regardless of who's giving it. But she is doing something. Again, show me one person with that has the type of platform that she has that is doing what she's doing. Show me. Show me. Show me. You can, what's his name? Tariq Nasheed, not doing it. He's not doing it. Show me someone with a huge following that is doing what she's doing. I'll wait. See, that's what our community does. Their community, when I say the community of our oppressors, when push come to shove, they stick together. Nick Fuentes, who is a racist, all the above, when he felt like Candace Owens was getting the best of Turning Point, he made it clear that he's going to join forces basically and go against her. Another guy by the name of Jones, Alex Jones or whatever, same thing. Same thing. When it push comes to shove, anyone but the Negro. Let me say that again. Family, hold on one second. Let me pause real quick. All right, my apologies, family. Had to take that call here. All right. Let me fix this other thing here. But again, show me who's doing what she is doing. Let me say that again. Show me one group, on her level. When I say on her level, in terms of the level of influence, that is, just hitting hard. She is hitting hard. And we can get into a family, we all witness the shift. Regardless of what took it, what caused it to shift, we witnessed the shift. Now, I know some of you guys will say that, hey, she wasn't, she's grifting and all this other stuff. But I can tell you emphatically, and I can prove it because the videos are still on the channel. When Kyrie Irving went through his situation, she was the first person that defended him. Literally. She was the first person to do a video, and she was still with, what's that group? Daily Wire. And she was the first person to stand up for Kyrie. one of the very few. All right. So I could go right down the list. But let me do something here real quick before I forget. All right. So if you see me kind of talking and doing two things at one time, it's because I need to send something real quick. Set a setting here. I'm waiting for it to process here. But anyway, so I just want to make sure we clear on that, family. Moderators, you guys know what to do. If people are inside the chat posting things or I would just say acting crazy, you guys know what to do. Because certain things we just don't roll with. Let's be very respectful. You're entitled to feel whatever you have an opinion. You're entitled to whatever feelings you have, whatever thoughts you have, whatever opinions that you have. But all I ask is that you be respectful. That's all I've ever asked on this platform is be respectful. Right. And so that's all I ask. Let's be respectful, because your comments can make a world of a difference. Right. In terms of, getting flagged. All right. So let's listen with intelligence. All right. It's okay to disagree. But let's if we want to disagree, let's do it with respect. All right. Let me just do something real quick before we get started. All right, what's going on here? All right. All right, let me try it one more time. And we'll get started here. I just need to do something over here. Kind of got the Neo thing from the Matrix going on. All these monitors here. So let me make sure this is good. All right. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into it, family. While that's doing what it's doing over there, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let's stretch out the screen, and we got a lot to unpack. Berean Scholar, I see you in the building. I'm going to bring you on once I'll drop the link once I get to a certain point. I just want to lay the foundation, and then I'll bring you on, my brother. Really appreciate it. Hallelujah. All right, let me do this here. All right. All right. All right. So you ruled the slave trade. You ruled the slave trade. Let me say that again. You ruled the slave trade. That's what we're dealing with this afternoon or this evening. All right, let's unpack this. What is the definition of anti-Semitism according to the Jewish community? Let me say that again. What is the definition of anti-Semitism according to the Jewish community, according to the 1948ers? Let me say it one more. Let me ask that question one more time. What is the definition of anti-Semitism according to the 1948ers? I'm going to say it that way just so that way we don't get flagged. All right. This is coming from this document, right? This is it's on a state, or should I say a government website. And I'm just going to read some of the things that's here, what it says about anti-Semitism. Look at what it says. Calling for aiding or justifying the killing or harming of Jews, often in the name of radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. And if we have time, I will upload Kanye comments. Remember when things kicked off 3 years ago with the text that he posted, the tweet that he posted, he said that he didn't know. And he was reading from here what it meant to be anti-Semitic. He said he didn't know that, saying that he have a doctor. I mean, not a doctor. Yeah, a doctor is a 1948, a lawyer, 1948, his manager, 1948, his financial advisor. He said he did not know saying those things is considered anti-Semitic, right? So look at here. Calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews, often in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion, making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, especially, but not exclusively, the myth about the world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Now, you guys already know what's been taking place, right? Let me see if I can upload the video, because you hear them admitting that they are owning all of these things. They are owning social media. Netanyahu he did a video in front of content creators, basically spiking the ball on them owning TikTok, and made it clear that they're going to, put a bug in Elon Musk's ear about Gronk. See, they can say what they do. They can be clear about what they've done. And I've got plenty of videos with, for example, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. Haven't touched on him in so long. The guy, oh man, I can't think of his name. It'll come to me. But the comedian, the 1948er, the Ashkenazi 1948er, who he's Michael Rappaport. That's who I was thinking of. When he put some racial slurs out there about Kanye West, he stated, you know what I mean? He made it clear that they run everything. He said that we're jealous of them. Anyway, so this is what Kanye West was reading from. I read it one more time: making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jewish controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing. Does that make sense, family? Does that make sense? If that makes sense to you, type 1. If it doesn't make sense, type 2. Let me say that. Let me read this one more time. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, the state of Israel, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. Does that make any sense, family? If you think that it makes sense, type 1. If you believe that it makes absolutely no sense, type 2. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Now, I have an article, and I'm not going to say it now, but I have an article by the Polish Jewish community that I'll share once we get past some key points that I want to make. I'll copy it into this, and we'll double back on this, but it's from their own sources, their own people. But that will be considered exaggerating the Holocaust. It's some things that the Poland 1948ers had done in terms of the Holocaust. And they changed. When I say they, the government changed the tablets from being 4 million to just a little more than 1 million. I think that's how it reads. 1 or 2. Matter of fact, you know what, family? Let me follow my own rules. My own rules is if I mention it, I have to show it, right? Because once you mention it, if you don't show it, right, that can put you in a in a place that it can jeopardize you. In terms, what I mean by that is that can give them their so-called aha moment. Oh, see, he mentioned it. He's exaggerating. Why? Because not showing sources. Let me put it up here right now. Let me see if I have it here. All right, it's not in this one. Let me go to my other presentation. Let me just do it real quick, family, because I don't like to mention something and it's not here, right? If I'm going to mention it, I got to show it. So let me show you this here. Let me copy this over real quick. You may see me doing a find inside one of my presentations to save time here. All right, let's try this here. And I am going to copy this over. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? All right, I think I know where it is. Let me pull it up here. I want to copy this over because I will not mention something without showing sources. And I'm going to I'll copy the link inside the comment section so you guys can vet the information at your leisure. All right, let's see here. All right. Is it this one? All right, let's try it. I think it's this one. That's not it. Bear with me 1 second, family. I think it's this one. All right, let's try this one right here. I'll know when I see it. Let's see here. Is it this one? All right, yeah, I found it. Let me copy this over because this can be considered anti-Semitic because of me showing their sources technically. Me showing their sources can be anti-Semitic. They can talk about it, but they have the laws so rigged now that we cannot make mention of anything that of their own sources that's basically confirming what we're talking about. Let me put it here. Let me copy this over here. I'm just getting to this slide right here. Make sure that I'm there. Let's see here. All right. Is that the one? All right, here it is. I'm going to place it right here. And we'll continue here. Right. All right. So here it is. Here it is. That's not it. I went too far up. Let me. All right, let me. Exaggerating. I thought I was there. Oh, there it. Oh. Let me just look here, see where we are with the slide. So I know where to insert it at. Oh, man, we're on slide 3. I thought we was further down. All right, I'm going to have to move a little, pace myself a little quicker here. But let me go ahead and share this here. All right, there it is. All right, I put it down too far. Here it is. Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets. Look at what it says. This is coming from the New York Times. Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets. I'm going to drop this inside the comment section. All right. So that way you guys can vet it to make sure that I am not misrepresenting the source here. So let me copy it into the comment section. All right. Let me drop it here. Where is my window here? All right, here we go. There you have it, family. It's right in it. It's right in the chat. So no one can say that I'm misrepresenting the source here. That's the point here. Here it is. Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets after 50 years of deflecting the request of Jewish groups. The Polish government has agreed to change the wording on stone tablets at Auschwitz and Birkenau, the adjacent Nazi camps where more than 1 million Jews died during World War II. The move follows decades of appeals by Jewish groups who say the current plaques do not fully reflect the suffering of Jews there and focus too heavily on the camp's non-Jewish victims. While thousands of non-Jews were among the estimated 1.5 million killed at Auschwitz, the victims were predominantly Jewish. All right. So I want to make this clear before we continue. I'm not minimizing the atrocity that took place. One innocent person is one person too many, but I'm just merely showing this for references, for teaching, educational purposes. So as you see here, this is the original tablet. 4 million people suffered and died here, right? And it says at the hands of the Nazis, murderers between the years 1940 and 1945. But then we see the newer tablet, which is here. Forever let this place be a cry of despair and a warning to humanity, where the Nazis murdered about 1.5 million men, women, and children, mainly Jews. So part of this 1.5 million is saying that it's mainly Jews, meaning there was others that was murdered as well. But regardless of the number, let's just say if we just say 1.5, there's a difference between 4 million versus 1.5 million. Does that make sense, family? That's a difference between 4 million versus 1.5 million. That's a difference of 2.5 million. That's the difference between 2.5 million. Is that the math, family? The math is not what? What's the number that it started at? So you subtract 2.5 million from it. All right, let me leave it alone. Let me keep it going because we got a lot to cover. So what is the definition of anti-Semitism, again, according to the 1948ers? All right. Calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews, often in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. All right, let's keep it going. We already read this right here. Let's fast forward. Accusing, we dealt with this one. This is a duplicate slide, but I'll read it again. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoings. All right. Let me fast forward here. Let me see. I've got a couple of duplicates here. Yeah, I just read that. So with that being said, family, let's now get into some of the other things I want to cover because we got a lot to cover. And the first thing I want to cover is slavery. Right? Who owned slaves? Let me go ahead and play this here. Let me know if you guys can hear this audio here. Hold up, let me stop it here. Let's try this again. All right. All right, let's try this again. All right, here we go. And if you can hear the audio, type 1 if you can hear it. You guys can't hear it? Okay, let me try one more time. All right, I'm seeing that you guys said that you can't hear it. Let me try one more time. All right, if not, you know what? I'll just play the clip again. I'll play the clip again. Not sure why the audio is not working. Let me do this again. You know what? I'm not even gonna mess with it. I'll just leave it the way it is. I'll just play what we were playing. All right, what she's saying. Let me see here. Let me make sure I got the right one. Yeah, this is dealing with the hatred of our people, for us, the Talmud, what the Talmud says about our people. So let me go ahead and put it in. This is what she's saying right here. Let me see. Let me make sure it's the correct one. Here we go.
I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it.
Oh, no, that's not the Talmud. What's the one that I want to do? Let's make sure I got the right one. The slave trade. That's what we're going to do. Here we go.
And to people that are at home, I implore you to wake up to these people who believe that they are contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery, because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They've buried a lot of it, but it's there, and you can find it. I think all of us need to wake up to this, because it's making me absolutely sick that he is so bold that he dare sit near Charlie Kirk's chair, that he dare grace that stage when Charlie Kirk knew exactly what Ben Shapiro was and will always be.
All right. So she said a lot, right? And she pointed out, she mentioned the, how they feel about us, about their participation in the transatlantic slave trade, right? I call it a world war because when you, I have a source, History of the, Slavery in the Catholic Church. It's a great book. I encourage you guys to purchase that. And it makes it clear. It uses the exact verbiage of the papal bull that the Pope Alfonso V, right? Not Alfonso, Pope Nicholas V, which you get the term Saint Nick from, right? Because he has earned sainthood, so to speak. So he would be called Saint Nick back in 1442, right? Signed the edict into law to enslave our ancestors, right? But anyway, is Candace Owens correct about the role of the 1948ers, the role that they played during the transatlantic World War? So this is why I call it a world war. Going back to that point, just to make sure I don't just brush over it. We've been dumbed down to say that, to view it as a slave trade. Fact, over 100 plus million Negroes were kidnapped, enslaved, raped, murdered, and dispersed to the four corners of this earth. That's a fact. No other human atrocity compares to it. Is documented that way by the historians. No matter, you could think, you could just point out any atrocity, does not compare to it. Not a single group was treated as cattle. Chattel slavery, the word chattel comes from the word cattle. Now, why do I call it a world war? Because the Pope signed and enforced the contemporary rules of war. And there were multiple nations a council of nations. And that's the definition of a world war. But anyway, that's why I call it a world war, not a transatlantic slave trade. All right. So let's go ahead and just get into it. So is Candace Owens correct about the role of the 1948ers, the role that they played during the transatlantic world war? Is she correct about it? If she's correct, type 1. If she's incorrect, type 2. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do this here. Haven't done it in a while. I'm going to go ahead and do a, let me do here. I'm going to do a, what you call it? I'm going to do a poll here. And if you believe that Candace Owens is correct, well, you'll see the options there. Let me just go ahead and do this real quick. All right. All right, let me go into it here. Let me mute this. All right. Haven't done this in a while, but let's see here. So is Candace Owens correct about the role the 1948ers played during the not sure if I can put it all in here. I'll make it work. All right, I got it in there. Ooh, all right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start this poll. You guys know what to do. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Whether you agree or disagree, hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything. All right. Is she correct? So the goal here, just so that way we can get a great sample size, we should be able to get at least 100 people participating, whether you agree or disagree. A great sample size will be at least 100. Okay. So we have more than enough here. I think we have over 700 people here in the building. So if you agree with her, type yes. If you disagree with her, type no. You are entitled to feel however you choose to feel. All right. But we're going to answer this question. We are going to answer this question. So let's look at the poll thus far. So far, we have 92% out of 81 votes. Now it's at 93%. Yeah, 93% of 86 votes says that she is correct. 7% disagree. All right, so let's get it at least to 100. I'm gonna let this sit here. We'll come back and revisit it just for the sake of time. So let's go ahead and answer this question. Let's go ahead and answer this question. Is Candace Owens correct about the role the 1948ers played during the transatlantic world war? All right, so let's go ahead and answer this question. What role did they play? Well, guess what, family? We're going to answer this question, but it starts with understanding Charleston, South Carolina. Let me say that again. It starts with understanding Charleston, South Carolina, known as Little Jerusalem. Did you guys know that Charleston, South Carolina was known as Little Jerusalem? Did you guys know that? If you guys knew it, type 1. If you didn't know it, type 2. And tell the truth. All right. South Carolina, right? Charleston, South Carolina was known as Little Jerusalem. All right, let's build it here. Look at this here. This is a plaque, right? One of those, wait, I'm trying to look over here. All right. But look at this plaque here. Look at this memorial, this government sign here, rather. And look at what it says. It says, in the first decades of the 1900s, Jewish-owned stores clustered along King Street in an immigrant neighborhood, sometimes called Little Jerusalem. Businesses here included furniture and dry goods stores, shoe repairs, shops. Let me read that again. In the first decades of the 19th century, of the 1900s, Jewish-owned stores clustered along King Street in an immigrant neighborhood, sometimes called Little Jerusalem. Businesses here included furniture and dry goods stores, shoe repair shops, Zalkin's kosher meat market, and Mazo's deli. One early arrival, Russian-born Samuel L. Banov, if I butchered the name, ran as a successful clothing store at 595 King Street and invested in real estate nearby, including 601 King Street, which he opened in 1919 as the Lincoln Theater. So we have a sign here that says Little Jerusalem. Now, if you pay attention to this sign, there is something that's missing from here, especially if you understand the history of South Carolina. More specifically, Charleston, which is the city or sister city to Savannah, Georgia. You don't see any references to slavery in this sign. Again, you see furniture, dry goods stores, in other words, cleaners, I guess, shoe repair shops. You see meat market, in other words, a deli, clothing store, real estate. But you don't see anything about slavery. You don't see anything about slavery. Again, what key business is missing from this sign? I already gave you the answer. It's slavery. It's slavery. But let's unpack it here. Because, and I want to say something because I know someone said, hey, slavery was abolished. No, it wasn't. Slavery still existed in this country up into 2013. 2013 is when Mississippi ratified getting rid of slavery, the 13th Amendment. And Kentucky ratified theirs, I believe, in 1976. And guess what? There were some of our people that were still in chattel slavery in this country up until that time. The movie Alice. I encourage you guys, if you haven't, go look at the movie Alice. And in that movie, you'll see, I can't remember, Kiki, that's her name, I believe, I can't remember her last name, the actress, playing the role of a woman who was on a plantation, slavery. She managed to break free. She gets, running through the woods, and then she come across a road and she saw trucks. She saw vehicles that was far, far ahead of the time that she thought she had lived in. So contrary to what many of you guys understand about history, slavery still existed in this country. Cattle slavery. All right. But I want you guys to pay attention to this here. Look at this ad here. Look at this flyer. Look at this ad. This is down in Charleston, South Carolina. As you see here, Charleston, July 24th. To be sold on Thursday, the 3rd day of August next, a cargo of 94 prime healthy Negroes consisting of 39 men, 15 boys, 24 women, and 16 girls just arrived in the Brigantine Dembia. All right, not going to butcher this, for Francis Bear Master from Sierra Leone by David and John Diaz. Well, on the surface, this wouldn't, stand out. And I'm sure you guys have seen so many, clips like this of ads of slave auctions that took place. But most of you probably never really paid attention to the name. Notice the name here, David and John. David and John. Make a note of that. David and John. The Diaz brothers that I highlighted in that flyer, the Diaz brothers were major players in the trade, in other words, the slave trade, and their activities were part of Charleston's central role in the transatlantic domestic, that's what, some would call it the domestic slave trade, right? And guess what? They were 1948ers. Charleston was a primary port of entry for enslaved Africans, enslaved Negroes, and markets and auction houses facilitated the distribution of enslaved people throughout the southern states of the southern United States, excuse me. So Isaac DaCosta, this is another one that is prominent down in Charleston, South Carolina. And we're going to touch on, no, we're not going to deal with DaCosta. We're going to deal with another one. But Isaac DaCosta, he was a prominent 1948er merchant and community leader in Charleston, South Carolina. Records confirmed he owned enslaved people and engaged in economic activities relying on slave labor. But we're not going to just stop there, because I want to touch on this real quick, because this is from an article I'm going to touch on as we progress here. It's from myjewishlearning.com, right? This article about Jews in the African slave trade. Now, this is what they would say, and this is what you would hear. Davis went on, and this is quote, Davis went on to note that in the American South in 1830, there were 120 Jews among the 45,000 slave owners, or slaveholders, excuse me. Only 20 or more slaves and only 20 Jews, 20 1948ers among the 12,000 slaveholders owning 50 or more slaves. Now, family, on the surface, this looked like, well, wait a minute, that they participated, but guess what? Their participation was much lower. Doesn't that look like, I mean, that's an extreme number, right? 120 Jews that owned slaves versus 45,000 that owned slaves. That seemed to be, a huge difference, right? It seemed like that their impact was very minimal. If you agree with that, type one, based off the numbers, 120 Jews were among the 45,000 slaveholders. Doesn't that seem like it's only a fraction? If you agree, that sounds like a fraction, type one. Or just say yes or agree, whatever. And I'm going to explain to you why this, the devil's in the details. Let me say that again. The devil is in the details. Let me say it one more time. The devil is in the details. Because on the surface, that sounds like, whoa, wait a minute, that number is very low. But let me prove to you how deceptive this point is. Here it is. Why is this a very deceptive quote? I'm glad you guys asked. Let me ask you guys a question. How many owners of car manufacturers are there in comparison to those who own cars? Let me ask that question again. Because this is what they're saying. Hey, it was only 140 that owned slaves compared to 48,000. How many owners of of car manufacturers are there in comparison to those who own cars? Does that make sense? I'm gonna break this down. Let me ask this again, but add a little more meat to it. How many owners of car dealerships are there in comparison to those who own cars? You see where I'm going at with this, family? This is how it's deceptive. Let me say that again. How many owners of car dealerships are there in comparison to those who own cars? See, on the surface, it sounds like, wait a minute, that is a huge number. 140 compared to 48,000? How many car lots in terms of, cars, businesses as far as, businesses as far as selling cars in your area in comparison to those who own cars? Now, let's take it a step further. The owners of these car dealerships, right? The owners of these car manufacturers, they are among the car owners, right? But guess what? Just because they own a car doesn't minimize their impact of being what? The owner of the dealership, ultimately the owner of the car manufacturer. The power is in the ones that are what? Purchasing the slaves. The power is in those that are auctioning the slaves. The auctioning, that's where it is. So you're going to have far less auction blocks. You're going to have far less people that are owning these auctions than those that are actually purchasing the product. Far less. That's why I say the devil is in the details. And I'm going to make another reference to that deceptive post that I saw. Are we on the same page, family? Are we good? If we're good, type 1. All right. So far, looking at the poll here, we have 93% that agrees with Candace Owens and 7% that don't agree with her. All right. So far, majority agree that she's good, in agreement that she's not lying, because we're going to prove it here anyway. All right. So let's keep it going. See, family, we have to, pay attention to the shystiness or the shiftiness of hands. See, when you see articles like this, they try to minimize it. That's playing on words. That's word salads. We see a lot of word salads out here. All right, but anyway, let's keep it going. Historical facts. Jewish or 1948 merchants' names are found at the bottom of most auction flyers. Let me say that again. I'm not saying that it was all them, but most of them were them. You could easily say 90% of them were them. 1948 merchants' names are found at the bottom of most auction flyers. Here's some additional flyers. Some of the flyers that you guys may have seen before. You see this here? See, again, we got to pay attention to the details. Look at here. Joseph Bryan. He's a 1948er. He sold, look at here, for sale, long cotton and rice, Negroes. I'm going to zoom this in so that way you guys can see it. All right, let's zoom it in. All right. You see the name there, Joseph Bryan. And on this day, even though they say this is the record of a number of slaves that was sold on this day, but I have another source that I came across that it was over 600, but not by this guy right here. But anyway, 460 Negroes accustomed to the culture of rice and provisions, among whom are a number of good mechanics and house servants, will be sold on the 2nd and 3rd of March next at Savannah by Joseph Bryan. But look at here, that name, Joseph Bryan, that is a 1948er. He sold 460 Negroes on record. That is a record right now. That's the recorded record of the amount of slaves that was sold in one day, in one setting. All right, let's see what else. We have Jacob and Cohen, right? It says here, public auction on Tuesday, the 13th. Let me zoom it in. What name do you guys see here? Jacob Cohen. And I confirmed that he is a 1948er. All right. Let's slide over here. Jacob August. Let's go to another one. Negro girl for sale, Elijah Slack. Let's scroll up here. Leah Menace. Come on, family. I got tons of these clips like this. As you see, I'm confirming it. I'm confirming it. But we're not going to stop here. Oh, excuse me. Hit the microphone. We're not going to stop here. I'm getting a little animated here. Judah Cohen, better known as Jacob Cohen, was a prominent 1948er merchant in Charleston, South Carolina, right? During the 19th century, he was actively involved in the slave trade, engaging, or should I say slave war, engaging in the buying and selling of enslaved Negroes. Historical records indicate that on a single day, Cohen offered to sell, even though we saw more than 125, the actual flyer had it in the 400s, right? This is a typo here. Sell 125 Negroes, this is incorrect here, my typo is off, highlighted in significant role in his inhumane practice. So this number is off, it's a typo, but it was over 420. Right? And I'll go back here so you guys can see it. Let's go back here. 460 Negroes. All right. Let me fast forward. All right. So in the same year, Cohen collaborated with a non-Jewish partner to advertise the sale of 210 enslaved individuals in a single day. Further underscores his extensive involvement in the slave trade. Okay. Let me give you another source. This is by Rabbi Mark Lee Raphael. Let's see what he says. This is a source that's going to completely slam dunk the point that we're making here. This is going to prove Candace Owens' point. Who is the Jew I mentioned earlier who dominated the buying and selling slaves in Charleston, South Carolina? You guys probably don't remember, but I'm going to bring them up anyway. Let's bring them up here. This is coming from Jews and Judaism in the United States, a documented history, 1983, page 14. I encourage you guys to get this book. Matter of fact, let's pull it up here, and I'll drop the link inside the comment section. Now, it probably gonna cost you a good penny, because you know books like this, they either make it so that way the price is so high now that many of us are waking up to knowing this truth, they have to increase the price of it. You got some books that's going as high as $30,000. This didn't come up in the English Amazon, it came up in Spanish or whatever other language. Let me see here. All right, let me do it this way. I'm going to drop the link here, but let me just go to Amazon, and I'm going to drop the link here and still bringing up Spanish. Now suddenly my Amazon is showing Spanish, family. Go figure, right? let me do it. Yeah. Little tricks they do, right? Now all of a sudden it's showing Spanish. All right. So all right, I'm going to put this inside the chat. Oh, come on now. Now it's doing some crazy stuff. Go figure, right? All right, here we go. It's too long. It's too lengthy for me to post it in the chat, family. All right. So anyway, yeah, but there's a reference right there. There's a source. All right, another source that I shared. So we share sources here for those that may not be familiar with the channel. All right. Jews and Judaism in the United States, a documented history, 1983, page 14. So let's go to page 14. Right? This is what we're going to highlight out of this source. Right? This is what we're going to highlight here. And you know, again, I bring nothing but sources here. So this is the screen rip right here, effect right here, but it's this text right here that I'm going to read from. All right? Jews also took an active part in the Dutch colonial slave trade. Indeed, the bylaws of the Recife and Mauritia congregations included an imposta, in other words, a Jewish tax of 5 soldos for each Negro slave a Brazilian Jew purchased from the West Indies Company. Slave auctions were postponed if they fell upon a Jewish holiday. And I believe, I always butcher this name here. I believe it's what is it? Curacao. Yeah, that's what it is. Curacao. All right. Because I always butcher when I see that C, I want to say, pronounce this as a hard C, but it's actually Curacao. All right. In the 17th century, as well as in the British colonies of Barbados and Jamaica, in the 18th century, Jewish merchants played a major role. Look at that. Jewish merchants played a major role. Let me say it one more time. Jewish merchants played a major role in the slave trade. In fact, in all the American colonies, whether French, British, or Dutch, Jewish merchants frequently dominated. We don't hear this in the history books, do we? This was no less true on the North American mainland, where during the 18th century, Jews participated in the triangular trade that brought slaves from Africa to the West Indies and there exchanged them for molasses, which in turn was taken to New England and converted into rum for sale in Africa. Look at here, Isaac de Costa. Make a note of that name. Isaac de Costa of Charleston, South Carolina. Right? We mentioned him, right? David Franks of Philadelphia. Aaron Lopez of Newport, Rhode Island. Look at here. It says dominated Jewish slave trading on the American continent. They dominated. They dominated. They dominated. All right, let's continue. So the Jew who dominated the buying and selling slaves in Charleston, South Carolina, Isaac de Costa. Here's a sample of one of his recorded transactions he failed to repay due to a cargo of slaves. All right. And here's another source right here too, before we get to it. Right. But look at here. Look at here. This is documented. This is the Papers of Henry Lawrence, Volume 4, September 1st, 1763. So this is, again, right, proof he dominated. So let's go here. The Brigantine, or should I say Brigantine, rather, Greyhound, William Penninger, however you pronounce it, owned by Aaron Lopez of Newport and Jacob Riviera, I'm just butchering this tonight, or today, of New York, arrived January 6, 1763 from Guinea. Isaac de Costa and Thomas Farr advertised the sales for on January 25th at Dorchester. So these are 1948ers, Aaron Lopez, Jacob Riviera, Isaac de Costa. All of these are 1948ers, family. That's the point that I'm making. The vessel was entered inward on that date with 134 slaves. All right, so this is a recorded record of this. But look at here. No duties were entered at having been paid for the importation of these slaves. Thomas Farr Jr. was first the partner of Isaac DaCosta, and then Robert Smith. He may have been the son of Richard Farr of Bristol, who was master of the Society of Merchant. All right. So again, this confirms who dominated the transatlantic world war. Let me say that again. This confirms, and I still got more to show you. I'm not just going to stop here. I'm going to show you more. Let's go back to Charleston, South Carolina, the Holy City, right? This so-called Holy City was built by a Jewish or 1948er Freemason, right? He was part of this lodge called Solomon Lodge Number 1, which was established in 1734, right? So the person who built this city, he belonged to the Freemasons. The Freemasons that he was part of was called the Jewish Freemasons. The lodge was called the Solomon's Lodge Number 1, which was established in 1734. And here's a little information on that lodge. All right. Freemasonry is the oldest fraternal organization in the world. It is dedicated to promoting improvement, right? So that's just giving you some information on that, right? But this is a 1948er lodge. Freemasonry is the oldest fraternal organization in the world. It is dedicated to promoting improvement in the character of its members. A Mason is taught to be a good citizen, to be of good character, and to take care for those less fortunate. Unfortunately, we weren't considered the less fortunate. We were not considered the less fortunate. Freemasonry traces its roots back to the Middle Ages. It is from associations of stone masons who built the magnificent cathedrals, castles, monasteries of Europe that the fraternity started. These groups eventually began to accept members who were not actually working Masons. They adopted the term accepted Masons, and Freemasonry was born. And these are the guys that's currently part of that lodge. But I'm just giving you guys some historical information, because when we think of Freemasons, we don't think about the 1948ers. We think about everyone else. Am I correct? When you guys think of Freemasons, you don't really think about the 1948ers. You don't think about Albert Pike. You don't think about Eliphas Levi. Albert Pike was not a 1948er, but he was heavy on the Kabbalah. Eliphas Levi, which was the teacher, was the mentor to Albert Pike. He was his name was I can't think of his name. I think his name was Alfonso. Oh, what was his name? Alfonso. I can't remember his full name, but it was Alfonso something. But he changed his name to Eliphas Levi, and he really embraced the Kabbalah. He really embraced Jewish mysticism. So that's the point I'm sharing here. I'm not throwing any shade at any of these guys, but I want to make sure you guys understand this for those that may be hearing this for the first time. So Charleston was also a key location in the development of the ancient and accepted Scottish rites of Freemasonry. In 1801, the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, the first of its kind in the world, was established in Charleston, South Carolina. This made the city an important center for Masonic influence and growth within and beyond the United States. These three 1948ers, slave owners, dominated the slave trade at their locations. Guess what? They are mentioned in this article I'm going to share, but they are mentioned very deceptively in this article that I made reference to earlier when I gave you the car analogy, right? So let's go back to this article. Let me actually pull it up. My Jewish Learning: Where the False Claim That Jews Controlled the Slave Trade Comes From. And when you read this, you'll see the agenda here. You'll see why they shut down so many within our community early on that was teaching out of this. All right. So notice you see David Franks, Isaac DaCosta, Amber Lopez, So, you know, my question here is it strictly coincidental with these or with the order of these slave owners identical to the word to the book, or was the book used as a source, right? Basically, my question here is it coincidence or coincidental that you see these names in the exact order of the book that I made reference to, or is it just strictly coincidental? We know that they're making reference to the book I just shared with you. They're not giving the sources, they're not mentioning it, and they're not quoting it in its proper context. This is where they start getting into the choice of words. Like it says, are among the early American Jews who were prominent in the importation and sale of African slaves. So it says that they were prominent. It's not a coincidence, family. They're quoting from the source that I shared. But notice the word selection, prominent, right? Let's see what prominent means. Right? Standing out beyond the line or surface of something. But here's the kicker. Stand out. But we're not just going to stop there. But look, here's the key word right here. We see leading. That's the key. Leading, right? Words have meaning, family. But let's go back to Aaron Lopez. Let's deal with Aaron Lopez. Let's deal with him. This is coming from the Jewish Telegraph Agency, the 18th century Jewish merchant, Prince of Rhode Island. Right? Look at here. Look at what they say about Aaron Lopez. Let me stop my phone here. At his prime in the 18th century, Aaron Lopez was the wealthiest man in Newport, Rhode Island. He didn't get that way by taking the moral high ground. Born in 1731 to Portuguese converso Jews, Lopez practiced Catholicism. That's right, Candace Owens. Yeah, you're almost there. You still got to come out from among her. Got to let that Catholicism go. Got to get out of that Catholicism, because all of them enslaved our people. Saint Nicholas V, right? Pope Nicholas V signed that edict to enslave our people. So born in 1731 to Portuguese conversos, Jews, Lopez practiced Catholicism openly and Judaism behind closed doors. Upon resettling in Newport in 1752, he headed a booming mercantile business. Not long after, he became a key supplier of munitions to American Revolutionary forces, dabbled in whaling, and shamefully participated in the slave trade. So he's very instrumental when you start thinking about what? The Civil War or the Revolutionary War. Anyway, Lopez was said to have had at least partial ownership of over 30 transoceanic ships and more than 100 coastal vessels. He was also a great promoter of positive interfaith relations. You see how they still gave him a compliment, right? Even though he's enslaving our people, even though he's dominating the transatlantic world war, he has over 30 ships. That's big, family. That's not small. He has over 30 ships. But look at what it says. And more than 100 coastal vessels. He was also a great promoter of positive interfaith relations. Didn't include our people, prohibiting ships from departing from his dock on either the Jewish or Christian Sabbaths. In other words, they didn't do it on the weekends. In fact, the Lisbon-born businessman became such a mainstay of the Jewish community that he laid one of the cornerstones for the, I didn't put it all here, but you get it. Their own source is making it clear. Let's go back here. It's making it clear, as we just pointed out, dealing with Aaron Lopez. Aaron Lopez has said that, you know, let me see if I go up a little further up. Let's go a little further up. Said that he was the wealthiest man. So what does that mean? He dominated. He dominated, confirming the source that I share with you. He didn't just have one ship. He owned slave ports. He owned over. Come on, family. Come on, family. Now, but I'm not going to stop there. I got to give you more witnesses. Let me share some additional information here. The William and Mary Quarterly, October 1975, Volume 2, Number 4, October 1975, page 601 to 618. Look at what they record. They have some of the manifest information on the ships that he owned. The current tendency to regard the trade as mythical overlooks the activities of a prominent Newport, Rhode Island merchant, Aaron Lopez. Prominent, right? He led the way, leading the way, who sent 14 vessels to the slave coast between 1761 and 1774. These voyages are documented in detail in the Lopez commercial papers. How come we don't hear about this? Have you guys heard about this? If this is the first time you're hearing about this, type 1. If this is the first time you are like you just caught off guard with all this information that I'm sharing with you, type 1. Now, some of you guys don't cheat. Those that have been following me, you guys hear this and have heard this a number of times. But for those that are truly hearing this for the first time, type 1. If you are surprised, if you're shocked at what you're seeing, type 1. Guess what? I was shocked when I was really delving into the details. Because what drove me, it was like, wait a minute, I see the Christian Catholic Church, I see Islam, but I don't see Judaism. But then I started digging deeper and deeper and deeper. I took the red pill, so to speak. Took the red pill. All right, so let's continue here, family. Let's continue here. So look at what it says here. Look at what it says here. Accurate appraisal of the extent and significance of New England's participation in the slave trade. All right, but let's fast forward here. Let's fast forward here. This is going to give some details here. It says Lopez presumably realized a profit from the venture, for it was followed by a series of 6 slaving voyages. So this is giving a name of one of his ships, Sloop Spry, right? So it gives you some information here. It says this is the captain stopping at Barbados, Jamaica, and New York on the return voyage, right? You see here a ship called Africa, a ship called Betsy, right? Go figure, right? Some of us call our cars what? Betsy, right? We see Sally, we see Africa, right? Here's some of the other slave ships that he have here. All right, let's fast forward here. Don't want to read all of this. Look at here. So you guys can, you know how you have a lot of people, especially that want to use the term, use the thought, hey, you know what? There was slave ships that was called the good ship Jesus. Have you guys heard that one before? There were slave ships called the good ship Jesus. They use that to say you shouldn't believe in Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, which is transliterated to Jesus the Christ. Have you guys heard that one before? Look at here. Tell them about this ship Cleopatra. That's right. He had a ship called Cleopatra. Cleopatra. He had a ship called Cleopatra. And this giving some information on that ship. He had a ship called Mary. We see Cleopatra. Right? We see a couple of trips of Cleopatra, of course. Right? And these are telling you the amount of slaves that was on per ship, 230, or you might as well say survived, right? Because many of the slaves are being tossed overboard and all kinds of other things that I should have put that in here. I didn't think about it, but they were, the cannibalism that's recorded as well on some of these ships, forced cannibalism. But again, some of those guys were eating our ancestors on the ships, not just forcing our ancestors to eat each other, so to speak. they were eating our ancestors. All right, so you see here again, Cleopatra. You see Anne, all right, ship called Anne. So there was a very high mortality rate on Aaron Lopez ships. That's the point I want to make. There was a high mortality on his ships. So even though you may see 96 slaves, you may see that number, but how many died along the way? Look at here. The two men carried out their voyages with uncommon dispatch. Cleopatra, quite unexpectedly, so early, arrived at Barbados on January 11, 1771, with a cargo of 96 slaves, right? And Mary came in about the same time. So this is highlighting why that number is low. Let me see here. Cleopatra had experienced a very heavy mortality, for she brought the much higher number of 230 blacks to Barbados on her next voyage. All right. Let's go back here. Let's go back to the source. Yeah, family, they dominated. Look at what it says. Going back to Rabbi Mark Lee Raphael from their community. The Jewish Caribbean nexus provided Jews with the opportunity to claim a disproportionate influence in the 17th and 18th century New World commerce and enabled West Indian Jewry far outnumbering its co-religionists. Further north to enjoy a centrality which North American Jewry would not achieve for a long time to come. Groups of Jews began to arrive in Suriname in the middle of the 17th century. After the Portuguese regained control of North Brazil by 1694, 27 years after the British had surrendered Suriname to the Dutch. There were about 100 Jewish families and 50 single Jews there, or about 570 persons. They possessed more than 40 estates and 9,000 slaves, contributed 25,905 pounds of sugar as a gift for the building of a hospital, and carried on an active trade with Newport and other colonial ports. By 1730, Jews owned 115 plantations and were a large part of a sugar export business, Domino Sugar, which sent out 21,680,000 pounds of sugar to European and New World markets in 1730 alone. Slave trading was a major feature of Jewish economic life in Suriname, which as a major stopping off point in the triangular trade, both North America and Caribbean Jews played a key role. This commerce records of a slave sale in 1707 revealed that the 10 largest Jewish purchasers, come on, family, spent more than 25% of the total funds exchanged. Come on, family, you can't make this stuff up. Look at here. Let me highlight this. You see here, family? You can't make this stuff up. But yet somebody said they're trying to shut my live down. All right, family, you guys having some issues here? Yeah, I'm going to say fair use. I'm probably getting all kinds, normally when you do these type of teachings, it just confirms. So don't be surprised if I have a strike. Don't be surprised if the channel disappear, because you can't share information like this according to them. Okay, some of you guys said you good. Okay, all right. So let's keep going, family. Let's continue here. Let's go back to the source, page 28. Right, look at what it says here. Now, this is in this book, it has some information on the letters. Right, this is a letter here. This is a letter. I believe this letter was sent to Aaron Lopez. Matter of fact, it's right here. Jewish entrepreneurs were active not only in the inter-island trade, but in the triangular trade as well. The correspondent of Aaron Lopez reveals the dimensions of this trade as the Newport merchant turned his attention in 1764 from lumber, ship oil, furniture, grains, fruit, and fish to molasses, rum, sugar. So just give you a whole list of items that he he traded for and traded out. But nevertheless, who was also his agent. Oh, where I missed it right here. And slave trade. That's what I want to point out here. But that's this right here. That's all this is right here. Don't need to read all of this again. But again, it says, we glimpse the deep involvement of a Jewish merchant shipper in the ocean commerce of the Western Hemisphere. Okay. So you guys, does that answer your question? Did we answer the question? Is Candace Owens correct? Based off of what I just shared, is Candace Owens correct about the role the 1948ers played in the transatlantic World War? I'm gonna drop a link for my brother to jump on, and I'm gonna go through another point here, but feel free to jump on because I want to get into another point that Candace Owens made. It's so much that we can point out because she gave so many nuggets, family, so many nuggets. So let me go ahead and drop this in before we go to this next point. I want to give a shout out to I see a couple of super chats here, super stickers. As my soul prosper, I want to thank you for the love and support. Thank you. Really appreciate it, family. Let's show some love for As My Soul Prosper for the love and support. Ainsley Morris, thank you for the super chat as well. Really appreciate you guys. Family, thank you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to watch this during this time. Hopefully it's helping you guys if you guys are commuting, traveling from work on the highway. Hopefully it's giving you some something to listen to occupy your travel, occupy you as you travel. Hallelujah. So let's go and continue here. Let me drop this link for my brother Berean Scholar. I know he's been waiting in the cut for a little bit, but let me put this in there and put this in the chat. And then we're going to cover another point. Like I said, it's so many I can go into, like what she mentioned about the minstrels. You guys know I've been posting on that. It's so much to point out. But let's deal with this other key point here about what the Talmud says about us. What the Talmud says about us. Thank you, Cool Chicks. Thank you for the love and support. Thanks for your dedication and consistency in spreading truth, facts, and our history. It is also their history, but they don't claim it. Absolutely. Thank you for the love and support. Cool Chicks, really appreciate it. And family, let's show some love for Cool Chicks for the contribution today. Hallelujah. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. Thank you. All right. Berean Scholar, bringing you on before we continue here, because again, it's so much I can unpack here. We could be here at least another hour going through all the points and confirming what she said, but I definitely want to go through the Talmud of what it says about Negroes and how, and the narrative that it contributes, that a lot of doctrine was basically extended from it. All right.
Information you dropped down to slavery was wow, man. I put in the chat. I hope everybody took screenshots. That's some great information.
I appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it, man. This is more I could have shared, but it's, man, you know how it goes. I didn't want to, do an overload and steam start coming out of people's ears, but I definitely wanted to give enough information that people could say, you know what is real. Don't
believe. That's right. You shouldn't believe the propaganda they put out. The truth is a whole lot different.
Yeah. So, any additional comments you want to make before we get transition to this next point about the Talmud?
Oh well, you're going to go to another level there. So I'm going to give it something to drink right now. So some water. So, because my throat was, I've been yelling and shouting, man, look at all these lies. Look at all these lies.
Man, tell me.
You know, I've seen some of them before, but still, you know, pulling out some of the posters and stuff, guys, you know, because we were with you. We marched with you. We did all this. No, we know the truth.
Exactly, family. They're the only group that have been able to successfully play both sides of the fence. Say that we support. Have you guys heard that? Oh, we support Black people. We support the community. We support. But when you study the history, starting with the, it's so sad when you deal with the Revolutionary War. And when you hear this commander-in-chief speak about the Haiti, not realizing had it not been for Haiti, and these weren't like men that was like 40, 50 years old or 30 years old. You're talking about 17, between the ages of 10 to 17 years old. They were slaves that prevented Georgia from being captured. Had Georgia would have been captured, guess what? There would not have been a Louisiana Purchase. And guess what happened? Not a single dime. They were slaves, and the soldiers ran. They fled while they were left there, and they held down the fort, literally.
You know, they made money off the shipping of our bodies, the selling of us on plantation. Some of them made money to own with plantations. Then they turned around and made money on the war to keep us enslaved. After that, they continued to make money on us, and to this day, like Kanye said, they make money off the labels, the artists, the talents, and everything. It's still making money off of us.
Absolutely. Well, family, we've been going for a little bit here, but we're going to go a little while longer. That's why I say it's so much information to cover. And Berean Scholar, you know how we do. When I get to a stopping point, you know how we do. I'll let you chime in because, you know, like there's so much information that I'm sharing here.
You are flying. Keep going, brother. Keep going.
All right, family, let's go to the next point that Candace Owens has made. Let's go ahead and play the video about the Talmud. Here it is.
I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, help you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all Black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them.
All right, family, we got a lot to unpack with there. So, like they would say, like the old school would say, fasten your seatbelts. All right. You know, for the women, put your baseball cap on and tuck your hair in. Right. So we got a lot to cover right here. All right. And I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to give you sources. And I encourage you guys to write these sources down and go back and vet it. You know, you need to have this information. Unfortunately, none of the pastors are teaching this information. Why? Because so many prominent leaders are doing this. Let me show this real quick before we continue on. Many of the so-called prominent leaders of assemblies, they are doing this right here. They're showing up at their doorsteps, you know, basically in cahoots with them to water down their messages to support things that are contrary to scriptures. Here it is.
And Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
A partnership between Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Friends of Zion Museum led to the unprecedented visit.
It's the first time in history the state of Israel has officially partnered with 1,000 strategic pastors to commission them as ambassadors to combat anti-Semitism and reach the youth of their generation.
Dr. Mike Evans says Israel's fight is not just on the battlefield.
Right now, there's an ideological war that Israel's losing. So they need the evangelicals, they need the Zionists to fight an ideological war.
One of the goals of this gathering is to strengthen Christian support during a time of growing global anti-Semitism. They say the pulpit must speak louder than the propaganda.
All right, there you have it, family. 1,000 pastors. Now, they've been doing this over and over again. They've been sending them over, getting indoctrinated, like the 2819 pastor. He was on one of those trips. All right, not getting into all of that. But what does the Talmud say about Negroes? What do they say about us? Let's go to break this down. Let's deal with some key points here that Candace Owens was stressing in the last clip that I shared of what she stated. Let me fast forward. Don't need to play this, but let me share one more clip here. So that way, Negroes that are watching, you can get an idea about how they feel about us. When I say they, you know what the 1948 is, that stem from their doctrine. Now here it is, and then we'll get started here.
We're finishing now part 2, chapter 2. And what we've said so far is that
fair use,
people have free will, and their actions are, some are good and some are evil. And by the way, the Rambam writes explicitly that everyone has some good actions and some bad actions. Everyone. And he takes it for granted that there'll be a variety. We talked about the fact that this world and the next world are asymmetrical. The next world is where the majority of a person's actions, which determine his identity, are compensated. For the righteous, they exist in the world to come and they're rewarded. And for those whose major complexion is black, are excluded from the world to come.
All right, family, you heard correctly. And brothers and sisters, don't try to make excuses on what you heard. When I first posted this video, it was very insulting, not from those from outside the community, but those from within the community trying to explain what you just heard. And that's cognitive dissonance, Stockholm syndrome, and herd behavior or herd mentality all wrapped up into one. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. All right. So you heard what you heard, and it meant exactly what you heard. Okay. All right. So let's continue. We hear a lot about white supremacy, but not Jewish supremacy. All right. Not 1948er supremacy. We don't hear about that. Why? This is Israel, Shahak, Norton, Mezvinsky, right? Jewish fundamentalism in Israel, Pluto, Middle Eastern studies. All right. So I'll share when we get to a certain point about the 1948ers. Over 10,000 of them were part of the Confederate. Over 7,000 of them was part of the Union. They were on both sides, and they high positions. But we don't hear about this. Why? But let's go to page 59. Let's see what page 59 says. The difference between a Jewish and a non-Jewish person stems from the common expression, let us differentiate. Thus, we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. Rather, we have a case of let us differentiate between totally different species. This is what needs to be said about the body. The body of a Jewish person is of a totally different quality from the body of members of all nations of the world. The old rabbi, pseudonym for one of the holy Lopez rabbis, that's what, when you say Lopez, right? That's where you start seeing the black hats in the outfits that you see. This is Netanyahu was connected to it. He was under the Rebbe. The Rebbe Schneerson even has a law that was named after him. They call it the Education Bill, but it was there. It was dedicated to him, and that's when they pushed that so-called Noahide commandment nonsense. That's not biblical. But anyway, it says here in chapter 49 of Hatanya, the basic book of Chabad, and you have chosen us, the Jews, means specifically that the Jewish body was chosen by God because of a choice is thus made between outwardly similar things. The Jewish body looks as if it were in substance similar to bodies of non-Jews, but look at what it goes on to say here. The body of a Jewish embryo is on a higher level than that is the body of a non-Jew. Hold on one second, family. I got a call come in. Let me make sure. This is my daughter. Let me make sure she's okay.
Man, this stuff is something else. Now, if anybody else had came out and said anything like this about any other person, Hispanic, Asian, or anything else, that's a offense. That's a hate crime. But these writings are there in the Talmud, and also in certain writings that and some of our people in our camps and everything embrace. And just like Pastor said, make sure my mic is on. We need to make sure that we're studying to show ourselves approval of the Word. We also need to study everything, but what the adversary is doing to us, because they're twisting reality, they're twisting the laws. In fact, the video that Pastor played in the front is having an effect even now as we speak. There's floods and stuff that happen in certain areas and different natural disasters that people cannot access help, because if they don't sign the loyalty pledge, not loyalty to America, but loyalty to a foreign nation, U.S. citizens.
Absolutely. That's crazy, right? U.S. citizens.
U.S. citizens. We got to be loyal to a foreign nation. You can protest and say those words like you just read about being superior or inferior by anybody else, but you said it about that nation, we can't help you.
And that's considered anti-Semitic according to their working document.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pastor.
Appreciate it, family. When I saw a phone call from a daughter, just wanted to make sure she was okay. So you know how it goes when you see that number. It's like, oh, because normally when she's here, she's doing her thing. So I wanted to make sure she's good. But let's pick up where we left off at. Look at what they say in here. The body of a Jewish embryo is on a higher level than is the body of a non-Jew. This expression in the phrase "let us differentiate" about the body of a non-Jew, which is a totally different kind. The same difference exists in regard to the soul of a Jewish embryo. It's different than the soul of a non-Jewish embryo. All right, let me move my mouse over here. We therefore ask, why should a non-Jewish be punished if he kills even a non-Jewish embryo, while a Jew should not be punished if he kills a Jewish embryo? The answer can be understood by considering the general difference between Jews and non-Jews. A Jew was not created as a means for some other purpose. He himself is the purpose. Crazy, right? Since the substance of all divine emanations was created only to serve the Jews, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So they're saying all the creation was created to serve them. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1 means the heavens and the earth were created for the sake of the Jews, who are called the beginning. This means everything, all developments, all discoveries, the creation, including the heavens and the earth, are vanity compared to the Jews. The important thing are the Jews, because they do not exist for any other aim. They themselves are the divine aim. Is that crazy or what?
Wow.
So the 1948ers, they teach that Adam was a Negro, and I'm going to prove that to you, and are the originators of the curse of Ham. You guys are familiar with the curse of Ham. They are the originators of that doctrine, that curse of Ham doctrine. I'm going to show you proof that the 1948ers, as we know them, teach that Yahweh was a Negro. And I'm going to prove it just because of this term called strange creatures. And they don't describe them in a good tense. All right? The doctrine of Judaism teaches that Adam was a strange creature. Let's prove it. This is coming from this book here, Origins of Design, Nature, a fresh interdisciplinary look at how design emerges in complex systems by Springer, Netherlands. Man, and this book cost me a pretty penny, right? Because you can't just get one book. You got to get the whole 3 book. It's anyway, let me not complain. It cost me a pretty penny. Now look at what it says here, family. This is also pushes the doctrine that the church, and when I say church, the Roman Catholic Church and the Christian Church embrace that Negro a beast term. This is with them thinking or referring to us as animals. This is what Candace Owens was referring to. But look at what it says here. At creation, the creatures were not made in perfect anatomical form. You see what it just said, family? It says that the creatures, and it's dealing with Adam, he was still evolving. He was created with flaws. Even though the scripture says everything that the Most High created was what? Good.
Was good.
But they say here, at creation, the creatures were not made in perfect anatomical form, and they continue to develop, in other words, evolution, and change along the way. Several examples for this involve Adam. The first man is described as a creature in an intermediate developmental stage. He was created double-faced and only later was separated into 2 independent entities, male and female. And it gives some sources here: the Babylonian Talmud, the Barakat Tractate, the Eruvin Tractate. It gives some sources here. So, family, one thing I want to encourage you guys to do when you're getting information, when you're reading these sources, look at the sources that they're making reference to. Make a note of it and then start researching it. They're there for a reason, right? Don't just read books. Look at the sources. Look at the reference pages, and then you go and obtain those books, or at least look at it to get proper context if they even using the information correctly. All right. But anyway, look at what it says here. It says he, in other words, Adam, was born a hermaphrodite. He had joint fingers. And only from the period of Noah and onward were humans born with separate fingers. So it says Adam was born a hermaphrodite, saying that Eve was dwelling, they were dwelling in one body. Come on, fam. This is their doctrine. This is what Candace Owens was referring to. He had a tail or a sting. He fathered strange creatures. Make a note of that. Remember, I said strange creatures. So if he fathered strange creatures, that means Adam is a what? Strange creation. He's a strange creature. He fathered strange creatures, and only from Seth onward did the human race come into existence. So I'm going to prove with the Talmud, they're going to say that Adam was a Negro. Let me play this clip real quick, because I like to play some historical clips for those that may not have maybe joined it for the first time. Peep this out, and then we'll go ahead and break this down real quick. Let me show this about Adam, right? That's making many of them mad. Here we go.
Wells comes face to face with the man he's been searching for. A new portrait of the common ancestor of every man today. Adam. Without the skull, we can't know for sure what Adam looked like. But a combination of genetic evidence, Bender's forensic skills, and cutting-edge computer software suggests he looked something like this. Thousands of years after the Bible, and hundreds of years after Michelangelo, we have a whole new face for Adam.
I like the expression. He's got a very forceful look.
You know, he's intent on something, maybe taking over the world. You know, you begin to get perhaps an insight into why these guys won out and why this guy's our ancestor.
All right. All right. Come on, family. They mad at us. They mad at us. They mad at us. Okay, let's continue here. All right. Let's prove this point. Again, they say here that Adam was a hermaphrodite, that he had a tail or sting. And what are the things they say about our people? Saying that we have a tail somewhere. Where did it come from? I'm proving where it came from. That doctrine. He fathered strange creatures, and only from Seth onward did the human race come into existence. All right. Barakoth 61a. Let's see what that says. And this is going to prove the point. In the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman. Rabbi and Samuel explained this differently, but look at what it says. I'm going to just skip down here. It says, one said that this rib was a face, the other that it was a tail. No objections can be raised against the one who says it was a face, since so it is written, behind and before hast thou formed me. So this is bending the scriptures. Let's go to another Talmudic book, right? Look at what it says. The first man had two faces, for it is said in scripture, thou hast shaped me behind and before. But it goes on to say, one explains a full face and the other explains a tail. According to him, I didn't put all of that, but anyway, I stopped there. But let's go to the Midrash. Let's see what the Midrash says about Adam. And this is the quote right here. I'm reading from here, right? He created him an hermaphrodite. In other words, bisexual. That's perversion. He created him an hermaphrodite. Look at here. When the Holy One, blessed be he, created Adam, he created him an hermaphrodite. Bisexual. Okay. According to the Jewish community, as we know them, Adam is the progenitor of what? Strange creatures. Which means Adam is what? A strange creature. Which means that they are making it clear that Adam was a Negro. Well, I know y'all like, well, prove it, Pastor. Well, who are the strange creatures? Judaism is the source of the doctrine of what is called the Negro beast. I'm not going to get into all of that today. Judaism is the source of the doctrine of the so-called curse of Ham, because I know many of us hearing the propaganda that's being pushed. Well, you know, Zionist the bad is bad, but Judaism is the good. Does that line up? You the judge, you the jury. You're the jury, rather. I'm not going to say the judge. You're the jury. You have to walk out your own salvation. But let's go to Barakoth 58a. Let's see what it says. Look at here. Blessed be he who makes strange creatures. Now look at what it says about the strange creatures. If one sees a Negro, a very red or very white person, so this is saying a Negro or a light-skinned Negro or a Negro that may be dealing with albinism, no pigmentation. That's what this is saying. A hunchback, a dwarf. So think about that right there. Hold on to that note. Strange creatures. So they refer to us as what? Strange creatures. And look as it goes on to describe us. It says here, on seeing an ape or a long-tailed ape, one says, blessed is he who makes strange creatures. Why is the Negro referred to as strange creatures? Why is the Negro is in the same breath with apes?
Man.
Come on, family. Look at here. This is the origins of the curse of Ham. This is coming from Sanhedrin 108b. Our rabbis taught 3 copulated in the ark, and they were all punished: the dog, the raven, and Ham. The dog was doomed to be tied. The raven expectorates, in other words, his seed into his mate's mouth, gross, and Ham was smitten in his skin. And then in the footnotes, I just put the footnotes in this page rip just to bring it together here. An example: from him descended Cush, the Negro, who is black-skinned. That's the origin of the curse of Ham. See, there were no flaws in all of Yahweh's creation in the very beginning. Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. Look at that. It confirms this. Let me skip down here. That's 26, 27. But let's go to verse 31. And Elohim saw, yours is say God, but the ancient Hebrew is Elohim. The Israeli is Elohim. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was, did he say good or did he say very good? So placing a point of emphasis that there were no flaws in none of his creations. In the evening and the morning were the 6th day. All right. And we'll stop right there. I got more that I could have shared with just on this lesson alone, going into the Negro or beast and all of that. But I'm going to stop right here, family. Like I said, we could be here for hours upon hours because these lessons literally take that much time. All right. Berean Scholar, you got the floor.
And I'm right behind you, brother. I'm right behind you because I'm so glad that she's bringing these things to light. And if she's reading these books that's telling her who they are and what they believe, she's right at the edge of falling into knowing who she really is.
She right there.
She's right at the edge.
She right there.
And
I believe she know it, but she just not
I'm with you.
Public with it. I really believe that. There's no way you're going to research and bring out what she has been bringing forth and not believe this. I don't believe that. And I know she's been watching. I know that because of what she's been sharing, the information and all. She knows more than what she's putting out there. That's my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear even more. We just right now got the kind of like, what's that, the tornado chaser, so to speak. We're just on standby just to hear that public acknowledgement.
When she come out and say, like many other people have said, that I've done my studies and I know that I am the true Israelite. It's just so much, man. When we as a people will stop and dig into the history, because our history shows these same things happen again and again throughout the world history, because they done the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
From country to country they've been kicked out of, all this type of stuff is happening, and what we're dealing with in this country is simply because they are pushing these agendas.
Trying to tell, and family, and I see a comment here, and I want to just confirm that comment. Said, good class. I didn't want to buy that book, the Talmud. Definitely understand, because I'm gonna be honest with you, family. Your spirit has to be really grounded, because a lot of the stuff that I research and read, I even had to take a step away from it for a little bit.
Yes.
Because that stuff can seep into you, and when I say seep into you, I mean your spirit,
Yes.
that's, if you're reading all that stuff over and over again, I mean, that stuff can have, you may not even realize some of those darts is still sticking to you. So family, don't go reading those sources if you don't have a a strong foundation. All right, great sources to really connect the dots, but at the same time, if you're not strong spiritually, it can toss you to or fro. All right, I turn it back over to you, Beran.
No, and I'm glad that people are looking at those sources and realizing what they really are. I've seen some of our people promote those sources, and that's something we shouldn't do.
Absolutely, and family, when you take Hebrew classes, guess what? Those sources are going to take you right into the Talmud. It never fails. So many of our brothers and sisters that start learning the Israeli language, before you know it, they start denying the Messiah, because it's going to introduce you, many of those definitions and all is tying you right into the Talmud. All right. But let's give a shout out to Mosey. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it, my brother. Thank you for the love and support. Cool Chicks, thank you for the love and support. Ainsley Morrison, thank you for the love and support. And also, As My Soul Prospered. Family, let's show some love for all of them for the super chat, the super stickers that they contributed to today. But you got the floor, Beran. I just want to go ahead and acknowledge the super chat here.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because the Talmud and other things that come is if you know the Talmud, you'll see other writings that's out there that take their influence, take their basis from the Talmud, and those things can have some good statements. I've seen people use phrases from the Talmud or from the Sanhedrin, whatever is it?
Yeah, Sanhedrin, yeah.
Sanhedrin. And say, oh, look, they're saying that ham was this color and there was this color. And it's just like any rat poison that is there. Rat poison is not, if you break down the ingredients of rat poison, all the ingredients are not poison. It's only about 5 to 10% that's poison. But it's that 5%, 10% will kill you. Because you stand around that other part, oh, this is okay and this is good, but that deep part that's really in it will kill you and will kill your spirit.
Absolutely. And as we get ready to wrap up, before we wrap up, Beran Scholar, go ahead and tell the people about your channel and make sure you post a link inside the chat so that way they know exactly what you're doing out here in these spaces. Really appreciate you jumping on. You have the floor.
I applaud what you're doing, this, Pastor, because what happened, we have to be gentle as dove, but wise as serpent. We have to know what's going on around us. And I was saying, yeah, go ahead. We need to do this. And my channel is Beran Scholar, just another platform pushing the truth about the Most High and his people who are waking up all around the four corners of the earth, and anything we can do to help our people who are not and who are looking for that answer. And we want to provide content that you can share to your brothers and sisters who are not yet waking up, that can make them go, that's something to think about.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. Drop the link to your channel inside the chat. Family, we may do a part 2 during the same time tomorrow, right? I think this is a good window for everyone, so we may do a part 2 to this, because again, it's so much to unpack. So much. And I know we couldn't get it all in one setting. But with that being said, we're going to call it a wrap. In the words of Yahweh, the Most High, the encouraging words he gave to Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, when Israel was the Israelites, I would say the ancient Israelites, when they appeared to be a dead end, water in front of them, the Egyptians coming up from behind, they went into a state of panic. And the Most High Yahweh gave Moses these encouraging words. He said to him to tell the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today would not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you remember repeat this fact? Genesis 14, verse 13. Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10.